Why do we suffer? It is the oldest question in the world. We spend our lives running from pain, avoiding discomfort, trying to build a fortress that can keep out the darkness. But what if your greatest strengths are forged in your darkest moments? What if, as the ancient proverb says, no mud, no lotus? What if your personal mud, your grief, your failures, your heartbreaks, is the very soil your soul needs to grow its most beautiful flower? Your happiness is not the most interesting or valuable thing about you. Here is a counterintuitive truth central to the work of Carl Jung. Your resilience, your compassion, your depth, your wisdom, all the qualities that make you a truly profound human being were not born in your moments of ease. They were born in the mud. Your pain is not a sign that your life has gone wrong. It is the raw, sacred material of your life's greatest work of art, a whole and compassionate self. I used to believe that suffering was a cosmic mistake. The turning point for me was embracing the profound wisdom of the lotus and the mud. The realization that my struggles were not the opposite of my growth, they were the source of it. In our time together today, we will explore this sacred alchemical art of transforming suffering into wisdom. This is not about spiritual bypassing or pretending your pain doesn't hurt. It hurts, but this is about learning to be with it in a new way. We will explore why our resistance to pain is the source of our deepest suffering, the specific nutrients hidden in the mud of our life's challenges, and a practical, gentle process to begin this alchemical work in your own life. If you feel like you are stuck in the dark, you are not stuck. You are in fertile ground. It's time to stop fighting the mud and learn how to grow.
Your original suffering is not the problem. Your resistance to your suffering is the problem. This is one of the deepest and most challenging truths of the spiritual path. From the moment we are born, our entire biological and psychological system is designed to do one thing: avoid pain and seek pleasure. This is the prime directive of the ego. Its job is to keep us safe, to maintain control, to navigate the world in a way that maximizes comfort and minimizes threat. And in the first half of life, this is a necessary and heroic task. We build careers, we build families, we build a persona, all in an effort to construct a life that is stable, predictable, and, we hope, happy. The unspoken assumption of this achievement-based model is that if we build our fortress well enough, if we are successful enough, smart enough, good enough, we can keep the suffering out. Pain in this worldview is a sign of failure. It is a disruption to the plan, a cosmic mistake. And so, when suffering inevitably arrives, as it always does, in the form of a heartbreak, a job loss, a betrayal, a diagnosis, the ego goes to war. It resists. It asks, why is this happening to me? It asks, how can I get rid of this feeling as quickly as possible? It tries to fix it, to analyze it, to medicate it, to distract from it. This war against our own experience is the source of our deepest torment. The original pain, the heartbreak, the loss, is the clean pain. It is the authentic, unavoidable reality of being human. But the resistance, the judgment, the shame, the anger we feel about our pain, that is the dirty pain. That is the suffering we create for ourselves. That is the true mud. I spent years of my life mired in that self-created mud. I was a master of resistance. When I felt sadness, I told myself to be strong. When I felt fear, I shamed myself for being weak. I was at war with my own heart. I had so thoroughly bought into the cultural myth that a successful life was a perpetually happy one that any deviation from that baseline felt like a personal failure. My suffering wasn't just my suffering. It was evidence that I was losing the game of life. It was the ultimate collapse of my achievement-based worldview. The turning point is not when the pain goes away, The turning point is when we change the question. The ego, in its resistance, asks, "How can I fix this?" But the self, the deeper, wiser core of our being, asks a completely different question, a question that changes everything. The self does not see pain as a problem to be solved. It sees pain as a process to be lived through. It sees the mud not as a mistake, but as a mystery. And so the self asks, what is trying to be born from this experience? What is this mud trying to grow? This is the alchemical reframe. It is the pivot from the perspective of the ego to the perspective of the soul. Alchemy, as the Jungians understand it, is not about magically turning lead into gold. It is the slow, patient, and often painful process of consciously holding the prima materia, the raw, chaotic, messy, leaden material of our suffering, in a container of compassionate awareness, until it, of its own accord, reveals its hidden gold. The mud is the prima materia. Your resistance is the refusal to even touch it. The alchemical work is the courageous act of being willing to get your hands dirty, to sit with the discomfort, the not knowing, the heartbreak, without demanding that it be anything other than what it is. This is not a passive act of resignation. It is an act of profound active engagement. It requires more strength to sit with your pain than it does to run from it. It requires a deep trust that the psyche, like nature itself, has an innate intelligence, a trust that the winter of your sorrow is not the end of the story, but a necessary fallow season that is preparing the ground for the spring of your renewal. Your pain is not a punishment from God. It is a curriculum from your soul. It is the specific, tailor-made set of lessons you need to learn in order to become the person you were born to be. Pause for a moment. Think of a current struggle in your life. Instead of asking, "How can I get rid of this?" just for this moment, try on the new question. What is this trying to teach me? You don't need an answer. Just feel the shift in your body when you change the question. When we stop fighting the mud, we can finally begin to notice that it is not a barren wasteland. It is, in fact, incredibly rich soil, packed with the very nutrients our soul needs to grow.
The ego believes that wisdom is found in books. The soul knows that wisdom is forged in fire. When we have the courage to stop resisting our suffering, to stop judging our mud, we can begin to see the incredible nutrients that it holds. These are the qualities of the soul that can only grow in the dark, fertile soil of our difficulties. They are the lotus flowers of a life fully lived. The first, and perhaps most beautiful lotus, is compassion. There is a kind of shallow empathy that comes from the mind. We can intellectually understand another person's pain. But true compassion is born in the heart, and it is a child of suffering. You cannot truly sit with another person in their darkness if you have never had the courage to sit in your own. Your wounds become the bridges that connect you to the rest of humanity. The heartbreak that you thought would destroy you becomes the very thing that allows you to hold another's broken heart with exquisite tenderness. The failure that filled you with shame becomes the source of a deep, non-judgmental understanding for another's struggle. As the poet Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. It is also the place from which your light can then shine out to others." Your pain alchemizes into your capacity to heal. The second lotus that grows from the mud is humility. The first half of life is often a project of ego inflation. We build ourselves up, we accumulate successes, we create a persona of competence and control. But life, in its infinite wisdom, knows that an inflated ego is a brittle thing, a fortress built on sand. Suffering is the great humbler. Failure, loss, heartbreak,
These are the sacred sledgehammers that shatter the arrogance of the ego. They force us to our knees, and it is only from our knees that we can finally see the vast, mysterious, and uncontrollable nature of life as it truly is. In this humility, we do not find weakness, we find a profound, quiet strength. We stop trying to be the masters of the universe, and we learn to become humble participants in its dance. We discover a grace that can only be found when we surrender our demand to be in control. The third lotus is resilience. Our culture sells us a false image of strength. It tells us that strength is the absence of scars, the absence of weakness, a perfect, unbroken surface. This is a lie. True psychological and spiritual strength is not the ability to avoid being broken. It is the ability to be broken and to heal and to integrate the wisdom of the brick. Every time you navigate a dark night of the soul and emerge on the other side, your container for life gets bigger. Your capacity to hold both joy and sorrow expands. You learn in your very bones that you are more resilient than you ever imagined. Your scars are not signs of damage. They are testaments to your survival. They are the beautiful golden seams of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold lacquer, making the object more beautiful and more valuable because it was broken. Your resilience is the gold that fills your cracks. And the fourth, and perhaps most profound lotus, is meaning. The psychologist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, taught us that the primary drive in human beings is not the pursuit of pleasure, but the pursuit of meaning. And he discovered that meaning can be found even in the most extreme conditions of suffering. Our deepest sense of purpose is often not found on the sunny peaks of our successes, but in the dark valleys of our greatest struggles. The story of the wounded healer, of Chiron, is the story of finding your calling in your deepest pain. I have seen this time and time again in my own life and in the lives of those I've worked with. The person who dedicates their life to creating safe spaces for others is often the person who never felt safe as a child. The most brilliant therapists are often those who have navigated the deepest trenches of their own psyches. The mud of your personal suffering contains the seed of your unique gift to the world. The very thing you thought disqualified you from a meaningful life is, in fact, your deepest qualification. It is the curriculum your soul chose to prepare you for your life's true work. Pause here. Think of a difficult, muddy period in your past. What is one unexpected lotus, one surprising strength or piece of wisdom that grew from that time? In the comments, I invite you to share one lotus you've discovered. Let's create a garden of our collective resilience. To see our suffering in this way, as the source of our compassion, our humility, our resilience, and our meaning, is to change our relationship with it forever. We move from being a victim of our life story to becoming a conscious alchemist. We are no longer defined by what happened to us. We are defined by what we are able to create from what happened from us. This is the heart of shadow work. This is the art of turning lead into gold.
To know that the lotus grows from the mud is wisdom. To willingly put your hands in the mud is courage. The alchemical process is not a passive waiting game. It is an active, conscious engagement with your pain. But it must be done with great care, with great reverence. You cannot simply dive into the abyss of your sorrow and expect to find gold. You will likely only find more darkness. The art of this work is learning how to be with the mud without being consumed by it. This requires a container,
It requires a practice. The first practice is create a safe container. This is the most crucial step for safety. You do not have to live in your pain 24 hours a day. That is not healing, that is drowning. Instead, you consciously create a specific, limited, and sacred time and space to be with the feeling. This could be your weekly therapy session. It could be a 10-minute journaling practice each morning. It could be a walk in nature where you give yourself full permission to feel the grief you've been holding back. By creating a container, you are telling your psyche, I am not going to let this feeling overwhelm my entire life. But in this specific time, in this specific space, you have my full, undivided, compassionate attention. This honors the pain without letting it run your life. It creates a safe harbor where the difficult work can be done. The second practice is somatic witnessing. This is a profound tool for working with intense emotions. When we are in pain, the mind tends to get lost in the story of the pain. It replays the events over and over. He said this, she did that, I should have. This looping story keeps the pain alive and often amplifies it. Somatic witnessing invites you to do something radical. You gently unhook your attention from the story and you drop it down into your body. You ask, where do I feel this sadness in my body right now? Is it a heaviness in your chest, a tightness in your throat, an emptiness in your stomach? Then you get curious about the raw sensation itself, just as we did when we dialogued with our symptoms. What is its texture, its temperature, its color, its shape? You simply witness the physical sensation with a kind, open curiosity. You are not trying to fix it or change it, you are just being with it. And something miraculous happens when you do this. When an emotion is witnessed on a purely physical level, without the fuel of a looping story, it begins to soften, it begins to move, it begins to transform. You are allowing the energy of the pain to complete its natural cycle instead of keeping it trapped in the prison of your narrative. The third practice is creative expression. Sometimes the pain is too big, too chaotic to be held inside. It needs a way out. It needs to be given a form outside of yourself. This is the heart of art therapy, and it is a powerful alchemical tool. You take the raw material of your mud, your grief, your rage, your despair, and you give it form. You don't have to be an artist to do this. Take a big piece of paper and some crayons and just scribble, allowing your hand to express the chaotic energy of your anger. Write a poem to your sadness. It doesn't have to be a good poem, it just has to be an honest one. Put on a piece of music and allow your body to move in a way that expresses your frustration. By giving your inner state an outer form, you accomplish two things. First, you release the energetic pressure from your own system. Second, you can now look at what you've created. You can see your grief on the page. You can see your anger in the colors. This creates separation. You are no longer just the feeling, you are the one who is able to witness it and even create something from it. You have moved from victim to creator, from lead to alchemist. These practices, creating a container, somatic witnessing, and creative expression, are the gentle, courageous ways we put our hands in the mud. They are how we begin the sacred work of growing our own lotus. The ultimate goal is not to escape the mud and live forever as the lotus. The ultimate goal is wholeness, and wholeness means embracing the entire cycle. It means understanding in your very soul that you are both. You are the beautiful flower that reaches for the sun, and you are the dark, messy, life-giving mud that nourishes its roots. To be at war with your mud is to be at war with the very source of your own becoming. To accept your mud, to honor it, to even find gratitude for the nutrients it has provided, that is the source of a profound and unshakable peace. It is the end of the war against yourself. It is the beginning of a deep trust in the entire messy, beautiful, and sacred process of life. Today, we have learned the great secret of the alchemists. The secret is not how to avoid the lead of suffering. The secret is that the lead itself holds the gold. We have journeyed from the ego's fearful resistance to pain, seeing it as a failure and a cosmic mistake, to the soul's wise perspective. We have learned to change the question, not how do I get rid of this, but what is this trying to grow? This is a revolution in how we relate to our own lives. We have explored the sacred nutrients hidden in the mud of our suffering. We have discovered that our darkest times are the very soil from which the beautiful lotus flowers of our deepest qualities can bloom. The lotus of compassion, the lotus of humility, the lotus of resilience, and the profound lotus of meaning. This is the heart of Jungian psychology and shadow work, finding the light in the darkness. And we have been given a gentle, practical toolkit to begin this sacred alchemical work. The 3 practices to help us be with our mud, not consumed by it. Creating a safe container to honor the pain without drowning in it. The practice of somatic witnessing to unhook from the story and feel the raw energy. And the power of creative expression to move from victim to creator. The ultimate liberation is not a life without mud. There is no such life. The ultimate liberation is to finally stop being at war with your own experience. It is the peace that comes from embracing the whole of who you are, both the beautiful flower and the dark, messy, life-giving mud that nourishes it. You are the lotus, and you are the mud, and both are sacred. As we learn to find the gold within our own suffering, as we become more compassionate alchemists for ourselves, we are often confronted with one of the most difficult pieces of lead to transform: the pain that has been caused by others, the resentment we hold, the story of betrayal. We are told we should forgive, but what does that truly mean? How do we forgive when we cannot forget? What is the true liberating purpose of forgiveness? That is the difficult and essential alchemy we will explore together in our next conversation. For this week, I invite you to a small, quiet act of alchemy. Think of one current struggle or a past pain, your mud. You do not have to love the pain. You do not have to be grateful for it. Simply ask yourself this one gentle question. What is one unexpected strength or piece of wisdom or moment of compassion that has come or could come from this experience? Just for a moment, honor the possibility of the lotus. To anchor this practice, I invite you to share one lotus you have discovered in your mud in the comments below. What is one gift of strength or wisdom that a difficult time has given you? Let us create a collective garden of our resilience, a testament to the beautiful, stubborn, and sacred power of the human soul to create beauty from the darkest of soils. The mud is not the end of your story. It is where your story truly begins to bloom.